How would you like to start writing outlines that work every time? When I was a new game master, I did the new game master thing where I wrote my prep in order, like it was a script. Then I graduated to thinking, well, I'll just hold on to those things more loosely. I'll leave them a little less defined and I'll ad-lib. Well, that wasn't really different than what I've been doing before. It was just a less structured script, and a lot of times less useful as a script. So today I'm going to show you a simple paradigm shift, and this is something you can start doing right away in your prep to write an outline that works. Hey everyone, welcome to GMGenie, the channel that gives you the tips and techniques to take your game mastering game out of the box and off the rails. Let's talk about the purpose of having an outline. I would argue it is not about the order. Because this is a role-playing game, you don't know what order your players are going to do things in. In a role-playing game, an outline's function is threefold. An outline should help with pacing, making sure you are able to put varied scenes on the table. A little bit of role-play, a little bit of action, a little bit of information, a little suspense, a little action, a little role-play. Your outline should be helping you with exposition, because even though your players go unexpected places at unexpected times, you may still have information that you need to give them in a specific order. And third, your outline should be setting you up for flexibility. If you're saying, okay, everybody take 5, I'm gonna have to think this through, then your prep isn't working for you. The reason game masters have trouble with this is that outlining is actually a very distinct skill set from either brainstorming your material or presenting it at the table. And most of the time we were not taught how to outline in school. We were taught how to outline papers specifically, not how to outline as a skill. What game masters need to do, and what I needed to do, is to break out of the concept of outlining, which is actually a concept that's very specific to things like essays and novels, and take a step back into a larger tool the ancient Greeks called arrangement. No joke, ancient Greeks, that's a tool that is still taught in classical schools today, and I have a playlist for ancient tools of campaign writing, one of these corners. That's the paradigm shift. When you're outlining, you're arranging things in sequence. When you're arranging, you could arrange them by relationship, by category or scene type, by which NPC is most closely associated with this thing. Picture all the items in your story as a cloud, and then start thinking, what are the connections between these items? Then when you're at the table and your players surprise you by jumping into one of these things, you know exactly what happens next. It's one of the things that's connected to this thing. And once you have those connections, your players can jump to any item in your game, and you know what's a viable next option. Something along one of those lines, not in an arbitrary sequence you came up with and no longer applies. And check out this tool about making connections. And you say, that sounds great up here, but how do I physically organize my notes so that when I see a connection up here, I can grab that note? That sounds impossible. Well, it is going to be hard until you completely divorce yourself from the idea of sequential outlining. What I do is instead organize the parts of my adventure by type. Locations, puzzles, monsters, plot points, events, NPCs, descriptions, backstories. Once you have each of those component types grouped together, you can think of them almost as cards for you to play out of your hand. And you can plan that play based on what the players are doing now. Like, I think they're about ready for this piece of exposition. Oh, wait, nope. They're following a red herring. This could be interesting. I'm going to give them a monster to fight on the way there. Or you could be writing that note to yourself beforehand as a sequence of things you want to do, except now it's more of general strategy notes than an outline that's going to restrict your thinking. And I'm about to release a whole playlist on components, which ones I think there are, what makes each one strong or weak, and a convenient layout for writing them down. So check that out. Link will be at the end of the video. Watch for the symptoms of sequential thinking. Like I said, getting stuck, need to take 5 minutes to figure out. But even before that, when you're in the prep stage, ask, how many different ways can I picture this scene happening? If that number is 1, then you need to find some connections. Do you have any scenes or events or NPC introductions that in your mind are dependent on happening after something else? Take a minute, really drill down at what is making it dependent on this other thing. And if the whole scene is dependent, then keep it that way. But if it's actually just one little element in the scene, you can pull that out, make it its own thing, and then you'll be ready to mix and match it back into this scene, if it works out that way, or into whatever your players need. Pay attention. Have you pulled apart your scenes that you pictured into distinct events, NPCs, and clues, say, whatever else is going on in that scene? Have you pulled those apart into separate components that you can mix and match and put them in whatever order ends up being appropriate at the table? I know this sounds complicated, but you can start right away. Anytime you find yourself drifting back into outlining like a high school paper, stop, cut up your paper if you have to, and arrange the pieces instead according to which ones are like each other, which ones could easily lead into each other, to form that mental web so you'll always have an out at the table. I have a whole playlist with tools for arranging your story. Leave me a comment with how you write your prep, because of course, this whole video has just been one approach. Stay creative, stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.